Hey everyone, my name is Nadia. I'm a software engineer living and working in London. I was recently able to switch from being on the skilled worker visa to being on the global talent visa, and I have been making a lot of videos talking about the process of getting the visa and qualifying for it. If you're interested in getting this visa as a software engineer, please watch those videos afterwards. They contain a lot of information that you really need to know if you're planning to prepare documents for this visa. Today, though, I want to focus on one of the most important parts of your application. Some say that this is the most important part. It's the recommendation letters that you need to submit in order to get the visa. So the idea here is that you are either an established leader in the digital technology sphere or you are a promising leader, and you reach out to other people who are leaders in this space and you ask them to vouch for you, to talk about your achievements, the projects where you worked on, and then how they look up to you, or maybe how they see a lot of potential in you to become an established leader in the space. So who can write this letter? This has to be somebody who's established in the field of digital tech, and this has to be somebody who knows you and ideally who has worked with you in the past. So this can't be just a random person that you find on LinkedIn and ask them to write your letter. There is this myth that this has to be a CEO of a company. I've even heard of lawyers who say that if you don't have access to a CEO of your company, then we won't be able to help you with your case. This is really strange because, for instance, I have not submitted any letters from any CEOs in my application and I was successful. And I have heard of a lot of applicants who haven't really had access to a CEO of a company, but still were granted those visas. Generally, the rule of thumb is that if you work at a small company, you need to go as high up the ladder as possible to get the letter. But if you're working at a bigger company, especially a company like Google or Facebook, then you aren't really expected to get a letter from a CEO. Generally, you can get a letter from a software engineer like you or a senior software engineer. Here, the idea is that at certain companies, like the FAANG companies, the expectations from software engineers are so high that anybody who is a software engineer at a company like Google is already fulfilling the expectations of the tech nation, meaning that they are leaders in technology. Another way to think about it is to think whether this person who will be writing your letter would be able to qualify for the Tech Nation visa, for the Global Talent visa themselves. So if they would be, then this is probably a good candidate. Another trick is that if you know somebody who already has this visa and you have experience working with them and they know your work, you can reach out to them and they will write you a letter. In this case, it will be very difficult for Tech Nation to say that this person doesn't really fulfill their own criteria if they had previously granted them the Global Talent visa. I've heard this complaint from a lot of people that they don't really know anybody at their company or their previous companies who can write them this letter. And this is actually a problem for a lot of people. However, if you're planning to apply for this visa in the future, what you can do is start investing time in building those relationships right now. So what you can do is try to schedule a one-on-one meeting with your skip level manager. So a skip level manager is your manager's manager. If you work in a more informal company where this is easy to do, you can just book a meeting with them and chat with them. Just chat about work, chat about your projects, prepare some questions about the company, and just generally be interested in whatever they have to say. Think of what is out there that they can teach you and kind of use this meeting as an opportunity to establish the connection, but also learn something useful. If this is a more formal company, a bigger company, maybe the way to do this will be to reach out to these leaders or this manager's executive assistant, if they have them, and ask them what would be the way for you to get to chat with them. So ask your manager maybe, what is the way to talk to their manager or to their manager's manager, and invest time and start doing it right now. There is this book called Dig Your Well Before You Need It. It means that you should be investing time in building your networks well before you actually need their help. So if you don't know anybody, you don't have any connections, you don't have a network, and you suddenly need to have 5 letters from established people, it will be very hard for you to get them. But if you have some time, try to start doing this right now, and then you will have a much easier time getting those people to write you recommendation letters or to sign them. When it comes to the structure of those letters, I would always recommend that you refer to the TechNation Visa Guide, because they do update the guide and they do update the requirements from time to time, so just check them. So first of all, remember that this letter has to be written for the TechNation Visa application. It can't be an old letter that somebody wrote for you 5 years ago for your university application or something like that. It has to be written specifically for TechNation, and it has to mention this in the beginning. So it should say that this is letter for TechNation application for the visa for this person. So this is number one. The letter should start with describing who this person is who's writing the letter, and mention a couple of sentences, a few short paragraphs about who this person is and summarizing their most impressive achievements. Also, you will need to add a link to their LinkedIn profile. Ideally, this profile should have some information on it. So this is kind of a modern equivalent of a CV, which was a way to prove someone's credentials beforehand. Then they should talk about how they know you. Ideally, they should know you through the common work that you did together. They should focus on the most important projects that you have delivered as a software engineer, about why those projects were important, why they were complicated in terms of technical implementation, and also why they were impactful. So what kind of metrics were moved by your projects? The way I like to think about the letters of recommendation is that you should have an idea of the top 5 projects that you have completed in your career, 5 or more, or however many you can think of, but the projects that are impressive, and you should choose the most impressive projects. And then you should try to get those projects mentioned in your reference letters. So ideally, your reference letter should fulfill all of the criteria that you have chosen for the visa. So it should fulfill the first criteria, the mandatory criteria. So the person who's writing the letter should mention how they think of you as a leader or a promising leader in the digital technology. Then they should also mention the significant contribution that you have done to the projects. So this is maybe your second optional criteria, how you have moved the metrics for the business with your engineering work. And then ideally, they should also mention your second optional criteria. So if you have chosen, for instance, the outside contribution criteria, i.e. the volunteering efforts, the mentoring, the community work that you have done, they can also mention towards the end of the letter, they can also mention that I have heard that they have been involved in this volunteering effort with a certain NGO, and this work is very admirable. So this way, just one letter from one person can actually cover all of your criteria in one document. They should also talk about why they think that you deserve this visa and also why you need this visa. So mention briefly what your plans are for when you are in the UK, what your aspirations are, and also they should mention like how they see you working together in the future. This doesn't have to be anything precise, but it can just be one sentence saying that since this person is such a great leader with so many achievements and such great aspirations for the future, I see a way for us to work together in the UK. Then there will be their signature, the date, contact information, a link to their profile on LinkedIn. Another piece of advice that I wanted to share is that it's very hard to find templates for this visa online, which is good and also bad. So it's good because it forces you to come up with your own letter. It's bad because sometimes it's very difficult to understand what the general structure of this letter should be. So if you use templates that you find online, that you find for free, that you purchase, please use them just for reference. Don't copy-paste them. If you copy-paste them, chances are that somebody else will also copy-paste them. And what will happen is that both of you, or however many of you there are, will get their visa applications rejected because they will check it for plagiarism and they will check that this is a template that you have just lifted somewhere. So just use those things for inspiration. They can be super useful, but always rewrite the letters in your own style to fit your own voice. That's what I wanted to share about the recommendation letters. As always, if you have any questions, make sure to ask them down below in the comments. If you want me to help you with your visa, please go to vitalhope.com/talent and I will help you out. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.